Welcome to AETCM, the Emergency Medicine channel. Today we'll be discussing about a case that presented to our ER with quadriparesis. Can we begin, sir?
Yes.
A 30-year-old post-COVID-19 infection female with no known comorbidities presented to our ER with acute onset of weakness of all four extremities. Now, in our initial 10-second assessment, patient was alert and active, obeying commands, and since she was talking effortlessly, we moved on to primary survey. Now, in our primary survey, airway was patent. There was no stridor, hoarseness of voice noted. There was no drooling of saliva seen. Now, in breathing, patient had spontaneous breathing with bilaterally air entry was equal, with adequate chest rights and excursions, with symmetrical chest movements, maintaining respiratory rate of 18 cycles per minute and saturation of 98% in room air. Circulation wise, patient had a heart rate of 80 beats per minute, which was regular in rhythm. BP was 110/80 millimeter mercury. All peripheral pulses were palpable and she was maintaining a MAP of 90 millimeter mercury. Now, in disability wise, patient had a full GCS score E4 V5 M6 totaling up to 15/15, with pupils being 2.5 millimeters, symmetrical bilaterally, reactive to light. Now, in disability itself, patient had quadriparesis. That is, lower limb power was 1/5 and upper limb bilaterally it was 3/5. So, patient had quadriparesis, but it was symmetrical, like lower limbs were symmetrical, power loss was there, upper limb symmetrically there was a power loss, and exposure wise, and also patient had left LMN facial palsy on inspection wise. Now, exposure wise, patient had a temperature of 98.6 degree Fahrenheit, maintaining blood sugars of 102 milligram per deciliter, but there was no skin lesions or any kind of rashes that was noted. Now, adjuncts to primary survey was we took ABG in view of quadriparesis to see if there is any acid base abnormality or any PCO2 retention, but this patient did not have any acid base derangement. pH was 7.44, there was no PCO2 buildup. PCO2 was 39 and bicarbonate was 24.6. Hemoglobin and the other electrolytes, sodium, potassium, calcium, everything else in the ABG was normal. Now, with this, we moved on to the sample history, the secondary survey, since the reassessment of primary survey was pretty much uneventful. Now, in secondary survey, in science, patient had quadriparesis that was in acute onset, like she was tested positive for COVID. Within 2 weeks of her recovery, she developed acute onset of quadriparesis. Allergy history, she doesn't have any. Medication, since the only past history was of COVID-19 infection and no other comorbidity, so she was not on any regular medications as such. Event wise, like I mentioned, she had COVID-19 infection. She recovered from it. Within 2 weeks, she developed sudden onset of bilateral lower limbs to begin with. At first, she was able to at least move her legs and walk with support. Within 12 hours of this onset, she became non-ambulatory and power decreased even further. So, to such an extent that the patient became power dropped down to 1/5 bilateral lower limb. Upper limb, she was only able to lift only against gravity but with no effort. So, mostly on 3/5. Now, with this history, she presented to our hospital for further management and care. Now, in our examination wise, patient.
History of pregnancy?
No, sir.
LMP?
No. LMP.
30 years.
30 years.
You have
No
to
LMP.
compulsorily at this point. Okay.
No year of pregnancy. Head to foot examination wise, patient had normal higher mental functions because she was conscious, oriented, and she was obeying to our commands. And there was no C-spine tenderness, no cervical muscle weakness noted. Now, in our cranial nerve examination, since the patient had no visual disturbances, no diplopia, ptosis, or squint seen, it was understood that the second, third, fourth, and sixth cranial nerves were intact. Now, in our seventh cranial nerve, patient had one-sided paralysis of the face with loss of even wrinkling of the forehead, which depicted a left LMN palsy, because if it was UMN, it would be like bilateral innervation of it would be there, and wrinkling of forehead would be seen. But since this patient had no wrinkling of forehead and one half of the face was paralyzed, it was Bell's palsy, left LMN facial palsy was noted.
Bell's palsy word should not be used.
Ah,
Bell's palsy is idiopathic
idiopathic. Okay.
seventh cranial nerve. Mostly it is due to HSV, herpes simplex. But in GBS, when you are presenting, it itself can produce element facial
Element
palsy.
facial palsy.
There is a part of GBS, not Bell's palsy.
No.
Bell's palsy is reserved for
Idiopathic.
uh,
All right.
And in history, one more thing regarding the COVID. See, when was he found to be positive and how many days it took? What is the severity of the illness?
So she tested positive on 14th of April.
Okay.
She tested negative on 30th of April. All these symptoms started within 1 to 2 weeks, like or from 7th or 8th of May. These
What are the
symptoms.
symptoms the patient was having?
First, it started with lower limb weakness. Then, to such an extent that she had over a
No, that is
rapid.
after 30.
After 30th, sir.
No, in the COVID phase.
COVID phase, she did not have any weaknesses.
Mild
Sir.
type or moderate or anything warranted her to be in ICU care.
She wasn't in ICU care. It was up to mild to moderate severe,
That is
mild to
severity.
moderate
Okay,
infection
you
that
can
she
enlighten
recovered.
on that point.
Ah.
Okay.
All right. Now, 7th done. 8th she was able to hear, and since she did not have any hoarseness of voice and her gag reflex and all was intact, 9th and 10th cranial nerves were ruled out. Shrugging was there 12th, and no muscle involvement, paralysis of tongue and all that was not seen, deviation of tongue. So hypoglossal nerve was also ruled out. Now in our other motor system examination, when we examined the patient, lower limb power was 1/5 bilaterally, upper limb it was 3/5. Deep tendon reflexes were absent, bilateral plantar was mute. Tone was reduced, flaccid bilaterally, but it was only reduced upper limb, in bilateral upper limb, it was not flaccid. Bulk was normal. Now sensory system wise, she did not have any sensory loss as such, so that system was intact. And cerebellar signs, since she was able to do the finger nose test, there was no cerebellar signs depicted in this patient. Now, the other systems, that is the CVS, respiratory and parabdomen, it was normal.
No, clinical it is normal. You are not examined.
Okay.
So how you will examine a CVS system in a case of suspected GBS?
We look for
What do you look for?
For CVS, we check for any autonomic dysfunction will be
you
there,
have to
sir.
check
So it will be
how do you check
bradycardia, tachycardia will be there or
How do you
not.
check autonomic dysfunction?
Serial monitoring of vitals will be there, so we'll see if there is bradycardia, hypotension,
one is continuous
tachycardia.
monitoring of the heart rate,
Ah.
whether a patient is alternating tachycardia, bradycardia,
Bradycardia.
persistent tachycardia irrespective of respiration. Inspiration and expiration, the heart rate will be similar. That is one thing. Then
Then,
what are the other features of autonomic dysfunction in a patient who is admitted in ER?
there'll
One
be
is like you
sweating.
told, it is breathing pattern. Sorry, heart rate depends on the inspiration and expiration cycle.
Sweating will be there.
Sweating, okay.
Ah.
Sweating, especially one part of the body will be sweating.
Sweating.
Below one level will be sweating, above that level will be not sweating
Not
or profuse sweating.
Ah.
Okay. Then
Sweating, tachycardia.
what happens to BP?
Hypotension can be there.
One is postural
Postural
hypertension, other one
hypotension.
is
other
fluctuating
fluctuating.
BP. One time it will be very high, one time it will be low.
Low.
Or postural hypertension. If the patient is able to sit up, then postural hypertension. Then
Sweating, bradycardia, bradypnea. All two fluctuating vitals. Then vitals. Bowel bladder.
bowel bladder disturbance can be
Disturbances.
there, pupillary disturbance
asymmetry.
can be. So many abnormal things are there, but as an emergency doctor, what you have to look is connect the patient to the monitor, see the heart rate, whether the patient goes to tachycardia, bradycardia, whether the BP is increasing, decreasing, that different types of trends. That is a classical finding seen in autonomic dysfunction, and some patients will have postural hypotension. Okay, this should be examined. Okay. Just seeing the heart stethoscope, that will not be enough in a patient of autonomic dysfunction.
Okay. So this patient had regular rhythm of no fluctuating vitals were seen. So respiratory system wise also the patient had symmetrical chest movements, excursions and all were adequate.
That is also not enough in a case of GBS. What will be more appropriate? It's
Chances
more-
of respiratory failure will be there, so the patient
Why
can go
patient
bradypnea.
develops respiratory failure in
Oh.
GBS?
Def-
Diaphragmatic palsy. So you have to assess the patient for an impending respiratory failure. Like you have to ask the patient to count. In single breath count will be very useful.
Single
Like you are documenting single breath count at admission. Like suppose somebody can tell 50 counts in single breath. After half an hour it is reducing to 40. That means patient is deteriorating. Whether it is GBS, snake bite, all conditions, deterioration can be picked up by single breath count. So that should be documented. Okay.
breath count. Okay. This we didn't do.
And the effectiveness of cough reflex,
that is
swallowing
also-
reflex,
Swallow.
deglutition.
Cough reflex is very important.
Very important.
So this was a CNS, our systemic examination way, sir.
So what is
So-
when somebody has come to emergency room with bilateral flaccid paralysis? What are the differential diagnoses?
The commonest one would be any dyselectrolemia, so like hypokalemia, hypomagnesemia, hypophosphatemia would be the
Okay.
major ones. These will have to rule out with
Okay.
any, or sugar levels being down,
Okay.
patient not being. So these would be the
Okay.
most common ones. Then other than that, there are many other causes of it, like transverse myelitis can be there, botulism.
Transverse myelitis mostly present with lower limb
Lower
weakness,
limb.
not upper limb weakness, because transverse myelitis mostly occurring in the thoracic segment. So upper limb weakness is not very common in transverse myelitis. Okay.
Multiple sclerosis can be there, or
Multiple sclerosis, it is
involvement.
patchy weakness.
Patchy weakness.
But it can produce flaccid weakness, but it is patchy. One side weakness will be more, other side will be less.
Weakness.
Okay.
Botulinism, that would be
Botulism.
like a descending paralysis seen, tick
Tick
paralysis.
paralysis.
Any cause of
Then
cord compression, any tumors?
Cord
Cord,
compression.
cervical cord compression. Initially they can have LMN type of weakness, but that also mostly asymmetrical, and they have past history. But sudden whiplash injuries, like somebody is sitting in a
Hyperextension
car,
injuries.
flexion hyperextension, those who are already having cervical spine problem, they can present like this.
Mm. Polio.
Polio is not very common in India now,
No.
but it can present, but younger age group.
age group. Polymyositis.
Polymyositis, how do they present?
Multiple, basically it is muscle involvement will be there, so
So how do they
multiple.
present?
They'll also, weakness will,
They have more pain,
Pain.
than
Pain
weakness.
than
situs will be
Okay.
there.
Pain than weakness.
Weakness.
Here polyneuropathy, pain is not there, only weakness is there. Whereas polymyositis, pain is more than weakness. Okay, so that difference is there, and muscle tenderness will be there.
Neuromuscular disorders.
Neuromuscular disorders are chronic diseases,
Yes.
not acute problem.
Acute.
Main differential diagnosis hypokalemic periodic
Paralysis.
and GBS.
GBS.
GBS is ascending weakness, periodic paralysis, flaccid weakness of all the limbs.
All the limbs.
Okay.
So yeah, with these we evaluated further, sir.
How do
Now,
you evaluate that?
Uh, first, we ruled out any sorts of infections, sir. So a CBC count was sent. Total count CRP was
First
low.
you have to see the electrolyte.
Electrolytes.
Blood sugar, electrolyte. These are the
Electrolytes.
two investigations will be done in any
Any
flaccid
condition.
paralysis. Blood sugar, you know that any hypoglycemia can
Glycemia,
have same
same
phenotype.
features.
Then potassium, magnesium, phosphorus.
Phosphorus.
Okay, that should be done. Will
Those will-
sodium produce weakness?
Sodium, it will be more in the sensorium part.
It mainly affects the brain,
Brain.
not the peripheral
Direct,
nerves.
no.
Okay.
Potassium will be more in the
On the peripheral,
muscles.
not nerves.
So this patient's electrolytes and sugars both were in the normal limits. Infection was ruled out with CBC, CRP.
Can you rule out
count.
infection with CBC and CRP
Total counts will be any,
in viral fever?
and
One of the common cause for GBS is viral infections.
viral infections.
That will not be ruled out.
Mm.
You cannot rule out viral infection with CBC.
CBC.
CRP can be sometimes normal also.
Mm.
So you cannot rule out like that. History is very important. He already had COVID infection. in
COVID
the past.
infection.
Okay. Recent past.
So then the other lab blood investigations were pretty much within normal limits. like the RFT, LFT, and all.
Thyroid function test.
Thyroid function test is also within normal limits. So now with this nerve conduction.
Thyroid function test, how do it involve with bilateral muscle weakness?
Hypothyroidism can cause that.
Both
Proximal
hypo and
myopathy.
hyperthyroidism can
Proximal
present with
myopathy.
Proximal muscle weakness.
muscle
They are
myopathy.
called as canalopathies. Channelopathies.
Channelopathies.
Okay. They present like hypokalemic periodic paralysis, hyperkalemic periodic paralysis.
In this
So-
patient, what is the status of bladder and bowel functions?
In this patient had no bowel bladder involvement, sir. It was regular and normal regular. So then nerve conduction study was also done in this patient, sir.
You have to take care of his airway, breathing, circulation. That is first thing. Whether you have taken care or not.
Airway patient was talking impending respiratory failure was ruled
Neck
out with an
muscle
ABG.
weakness?
No, sir. Neck
Forward
holding and all
falling,
that was
backward
no.
falling, nothing is.
No. Cervical spine was fine. No tenderness was also there. No muscle weakness of the spine. Cervical involvement was also not seen, sir.
Any
So-
sense of diaphragm involvement?
Chest movements were fine. Excursions were
You could not able
adequate.
to elicit anything, or
Nothing that we could.
No.
Yes. Maintaining respiratory rate, saturation, able to talk well. Chest movements were symmetrical, adequate.
the type of respiration?
Type of
You
respiration.
have to check it.
So with this we ran a couple of other investigations. That was a nerve conduction study we did. Now in this bilateral, median, ulnar, peroneal and tibial, these were the 4 nerves that were involved in this patient, which showed motor amplitude to be decreased with absent F waves. This was hinting towards severe symmetrical motor neuropathy with mixed axonal and demyelinating features.
Okay.
So another variant of GBS.
Okay. GBS can be axonal degeneration.
AIDP or Miller fissure.
Okay.
In Miller fissure, basically you will have, it will classically present with 3 features. So one is ophthalmoplegia, ataxia and areflexia. Now then there is another
That
with
means it is a descending type of weakness.
yeah.
Cranial nerves are involved first,
Involved.
then body is involved.
And in this, basically the antibodies mainly involved would be GQ1B. In the other ones, it will be GM1 and also
Okay.
GQ1B. That molecular mimicry will be more towards the oculomotor myelin sheath, so which is where oculomotor nerve will be involved in Miller fissure, which
Okay.
will cause ophthalmoplegia. Now another variant of this itself is something called as a Bickerstaff encephalitis. In this, there will be encephalopathy in the patient. Along with this, there will be hyperreflexia, but in Miller fissure, there will be areflexia. This there will be hyperreflexia. So these would be the major variants of
And when you are talking about nerve conduction study, that may show axonal neuropathy
or demyelinating.
demyelinating neuropathy. These are the 2 important features in the nerve conduction study. Axonal means axons are destroyed. Demyelination means myelin
Schwann
sheaths are
cells.
destroyed. Which is more dangerous? Axonal is more dangerous because demyelination after sometimes myelin sheaths will regenerate in the peripheral nerve. But axons once it is lost, it is lost. So the more prognosis bad with axonal neuropathy than demyelinating neuropathy in GBS.
So yeah, nerve conduction study will help us to first to diagnose and second to figure out which variant of
Okay.
GBS this
More than
patient
that,
has.
for an ER physician, why we are doing is we can tell the prognosis.
Hmm.
Some variants have better prognosis than others. So that's why nerve conduction study will help us to tell what is the prognosis. Okay.
So apart from this, a CSF study can also be done, sir. Now in CSF study, there will be classically an albuminocytological dissociation that will be seen, because
that means what?
that means that the albumin levels will be elevated but cell counts won't be elevated. So because of this, there will be dissociation. If at all
What are
the
conditions you get albuminocytological dissociation?
transverse myelitis, multiple sclerosis,
Okay. Any inflammation alone is
Alone,
presenting.
where
you can
cell
get
counts are normal.
Albumin is increased. Cells may not be
increased.
Whereas in infection, cells also increased. So that means here only inflammation is there is no infection. It's a post-infectious demyelinating polyneuropathy. So infection is there, but it has not crossed to the blood-brain
Blood-brain
barrier.
barrier.
Only antibodies has created problem.
So apart from this, there will be elevated proteins because of increased permeability through the
What happens
blood-brain.
in hypothyroid coma for this albumocytological disorder? One of the common presentation in ER is thyroid myxedema coma.
Myxedema.
If you do LP, what happens there? There also similar finding you get. That's why that myxedema coma patient will have almost all finding, but they have altered behavior also. If you do LP, there also albumin will be elevated. Cells are normal. Okay.
Myxedema coma. So apart from this, there will be elevated protein seen, and if at all the patient has HIV also in association with this, then the patient can also have pleocytosis seen in the CSF study.
Okay.
So these would be the findings that we can see on CSF study. The other investigation that we can run is an MRI scan,
Okay.
but this patient had no significant
MRI,
abnormality.
why it is indicated? Is it really indicated?
Not as such, sir, because GBS clinically and through CSF study and all you
GBS
can
is a
figure it out.
clinical diagnosis. You should make it as a clinical diagnosis, and LP will give you a clear picture.
Clear picture.
And nerve conduction study also will give.
Will
MRI is done to rule out
Other
disease.
possible,
What
other
disease?
multiple sclerosis.
Multiple sclerosis. Okay. Their clinical features are slightly different from this, but sometimes it can mimic. So in that, if you have doubt, then go for MRI.
But this
MRI can be done before LP or after LP.
MRI after LP.
Before.
It should be
before
done
LP.
before LP. Otherwise, the signal intensities can vary,
Before
change
LP.
after your LP. That MRI findings can be changed. So better to do MRI before LP study
LP studies.
in this type of cases.
But this patient MRI scan had no significant abnormality. So these were the investigations that we ran, sir. Now looking at our required diagnosis for the diagnostic criteria for GBS, this patient fit in. That is, patient had areflexia and patient had more than 2 involvement of the limbs with progressive weakness. Now the other supportive other supportive features would be symmetry, which this patient had symmetrical involvement. Then there will be mild sensory symptoms or absent sensory symptoms.
Normally, it is explained that there is no sensory involvement at all in GBS, but some patients can have
Okay, sensory.
symptoms, some patients can have some sensory involvement. But if there is a sensory involvement, you have to strongly think about some other differential diagnosis.
And then the weakness onset was within 2 to 4 weeks of an antecedent infection. With these supporting features, we concluded that this patient could have GBS as our primary diagnosis. So then we moved on to the treatment of this. Now since ABC was taken care of, and patient had
If the patient develops a breathing problem,
Breathing.
hypoxemia, respiratory distress, how do you intubate? How do you ventilate this patient?
without
Correct, ma'am?
Yes. What are the things you will keep in mind? Suppose you are suspecting the GBS in such patient.
in this
Not
patient.
only the drugs and other things you have to take care of. Clinical status.
This patient can have a PCO2 build-up
Yes.
because of diaphragmatic palsy. So without much delay, we'll have to intubate this patient. Now for intubation,
Now at this juncture, does the patient need any intubation or planning for an intubation?
it has to be kept in mind, sir, because this patient, since he was
We have to
taking
anticipate-
Constant
Antici-
vigilant
on-
observation,
anticipation,
monitoring.
So there should not be any crash intubation in this patient. You have to anticipate if the patient is deteriorating. Definitely you have to intubate.
intubate.
You should not wait. But there is no crash intubation in this patient.
So you can follow up after 2 hours with the repeat ABG or something.
Usually the deterioration will be very rapid,
Rapid.
in GBS. So, and as a prophylactic also immediately we should be prepared for this one without any delay. Okay. Then. That's it.
So-
Seventh is
How do you go
important.
ahead?
So in this we prepare the patient. It will be like a regular RSI, the way we do it with the following the 7 P's in order. First, where we prepare the patient, and then we pre-oxygenate the patient. And in the medications history, we depending on the vitals, we'll choose our medications and induction agents. Since this patient did not have hypotension, fentanyl could be used as a pre-medication analgesic, and also because it has a sympathetic anxiolytic property also. So in this patient, fentanyl could be used. Along with this, for induction agents, any of the induction agents like etomidate or ketamine can also be used for this patient.
Any other
And
agent apart from
Propofol,
So these patients are prone for orthostatic hypotension, fluctuating BP.
BP,
So better we avoid any agent which may further
fluctuate.
decrease the BP. Okay, that one you have to be very careful. Okay, good.
So ketamine can be used in this
No,
patient.
in the regular induction doses we can use it,
Mm.
provided the pulse rate is not unduly tachycardia.
Tachycardia.
So these people will be having a swinging of tachycardia and bradycardia. So we have to keep in mind. Okay, undue tachycardia, better avoid a ketamine. You can go for etomidate.
Etomidate. Okay.
So it's must for giving some analgesic in advance fentanyl. Okay, see not to suppress the autonomic. Then
Then for the neuromuscular blockade, both
the
the
airway assessment, difficult airway assessment is most important thing. Number one. Number three, any bulbar palsy, there may be chances the
Chances.
patient
aspiration.
aspiration that you have to keep in mind. In the already existing respiratory paralysis, so it may get suddenly in a horse hand.
In GBS, the most common nerve involvement will be a facial nerve, cranial nerve involvement. But as for us, the major nerve that we have to keep an eye on would be a 9th and a 10th cranial nerve involvement because of respiratory problems, aspiration, and other problems involved. So, and also GBS can also present as an acute bulbar palsy also, but in this, if at all patient presents like that as that variant, limb and neck and limb muscles will not be involved as such.
Will not be involved. That normally it starts with bulbar area, then it may spread also. We cannot tell that it is not involved. But normally at this variant, this starts with bulbar area. Mostly it confined to that area. Suddenly patient can deteriorate. Even lower limbs can be involved.
So and then as our and paralyzing agent, both depolarizing and non-depolarizing can be used, but succinyl would be a preferred agent, like if at all patient has other like for neuro.
Is contraindicated.
Succinyl
Contraindication. Pardon?
GPS.
Yeah, okay. So only myasthenia gravis. in
where
an extra
succinylcholine
dose,
is
additional dose. Increased dosage succinylcholine can be used. Now all other conditions contraindicated. Okay.
So
They can have prolonged action.
But
What will be the
Yeah,
problem?
prolonged action. See, prolonged action, and they will be on apnea for a long time. Okay.
so non-depolarizing agents will be used in this patient.
Not dependent. Which will be choice?
Not
Which will be the choice?
in non-depolarizing rocuronium,
Rocuronium,
because shorter
What are
action,
the side effects of
faster
rocuronium? Important
recovery
side effects.
of
Rocuronium.
rocuronium.
Anaphylaxis.
Anaphylaxis.
Is one of the common things
Allergic
have to keep in mind. Right?
So with this we can intubate the patient, so keeping anticipating way, but as of now for this patient at that junction of time it was not really
The main problem will be hypotension. Any drug you use, hypotension can occur during any period in this patient. That we should anticipate and do the procedure.
Since this patient is stable on arrival, we can also do the lemon. We can completely evaluate the patient for evaluate memory scoring, everything we can do.
Okay.
So then treatment of this, how we go about it is after we make sure that airway breathing circulation is maintained, and then we move on to the definitive treatment of
Catheterization is very important.
catheterization.
The patient will be bedridden for some 1 or 2 weeks. Definitely even if we are not going for intubation, but catheterization should be done in all patients.
So then for
Can bladder involvement can occur in any time of GBS?
unlikely.
That is explained in elderly individuals, those who are already having prostate enlargement. Most of these patients who is having prostatic enlargement, they use their abdominal muscle for voiding. Many patients, if the abdominal muscles are weak, they can develop urinary retention. It's not because of GBS, it is because of the prostate itself. So better to catheterize all the patients, especially elderly male. Okay, that should be taken care.
distended bladder, distended bowel, any stimulation with the suction catheter or during the laryngoscopy or anything can precipitate autonomic dysreflexia.
So bladder should be taken care.
So, coming over to the definitive treatment of this, immunoglobulins still remains as the mainstay, wherein IVIG we can give in the dosage of 400 milligram per kg per day. The other available option would be plasmapheresis. Basically, this is a extracorporeal blood purification technique which purifies any large molecular
How do we purify plasmapheresis?
extra.
What is the normal procedure done here?
Plasma
it is-
exchange.
It is plasma exchange. We remove the plasma,
And
Give
replace
in
with
it.
replace with another person's plasma. There is no purification occurring here. Actual process is purification, but it is
We
not
do it.
occurring. We are only exchanging. Okay, plasma exchange.
Exchange. So, if a
How do
pa-
it improves the condition?
because main pathophysiology involved in GBS is molecular mimicry, no, sir.
Ah,
So,
what
plasma, when you
So plasma contains what?
immunoglobulins.
It contains antibodies.
Antibodies.
Antibodies against nerves
Nerves.
and myelin sheet. That will be removed,
Removed and fresh.
your fresh plasma will be exchanged.
Exchanged.
So that can improve the
Patient's condition.
Patient's condition. Okay.
If the patient has mild GBS symptoms, then only around 2 plasma exchange would be good enough.
Okay.
But if at all it is more severe, then some further 2 more plasma
Okay.
exchange can be done as a mainstay of
Okay.
this. And because the patient is bedridden for a long time, DVT prophylaxis would
Okay.
should also be kept in mind.
Okay.
And then what else?
Any role for steroids?
Not recommended.
Steroids are not recommended. Okay. Then when will you go for tracheostomy?
Failed intubation.
No, tracheostomy. Because
Tracheostomy.
GBS is one condition, sometimes it can go for CIDP. What is CIDP?
A chronic inflammatory
GBS is
demyelinating.
AIDP, acute inflammatory demyelinating
Demyelinating
polyneuropathy.
polyneuropathy. This is
In
chronic.
4 weeks, normally these patients either stop or improves. But CIDP will progress.
Progress.
Initially, we will not be able to tell whether it is CIDP or AIDP. Some patients may progress. So, in 1 week, if the patient is not improving, then better to go for tracheostomy. Because normally, in other patients, we wait for at least 10 days or 14 days for tracheostomy. But GBS, once you diagnose, if the patient does not improve in 1 week, better to go for tracheostomy because this patient may take more time. Especially somebody is having axonal neuropathy, they take more time than demyelinating neuropathy. So better to go for tracheostomy initial phase itself.
Yeah, CID. Okay.
What other precautions you take for this patient in ICU? This patient will be admitted to your ICU. You are giving IVIG or plasmapheresis.
Anaphylaxis.
Hmm?
Plasma. Anaphylaxis can be things
Anaphylaxis.
for.
Other precautions. Somebody is admitted in ICU. What all
Then
precautions?
pressure sores.
Pressure source.
Long patients will be bedridden for a long time, so frequent posture change.
Okay.
Then that pneumatic socks for
Okay.
compression stockings for
Okay.
DVT prophylaxis.
DVT prophylaxis.
What is that thing, man? Bed thing.
Feed.
Feed.
RT feed.
How do you give feed?
If at all 9th and 10th
No,
infection,
we are putting anywhere Ryle's tube.
Ryle's
This
tube.
patient should be on Ryle's tube. We cannot orally feed.
protein,
because
high
you-
protein.
No, you tell me how to feed because this patient is in ICU. Maybe 2 weeks he will be in ICU. What will be the caloric requirement for this patient? What is the normal caloric requirement?
2500.
What is your caloric requirement?
2000 kcal.
That means what? Around 25 to 30 is our caloric requirement. But a person who is in ICU, he requires higher
High.
caloric requirement. Around 40 may be required for this patient. That too, this patient require more proteins than carbohydrate. Protein requirements are high. So
Body
for high
protein.
protein,
Low
caloric
carb.
requirement will be around 40 kilocalories per kg body weight. That should be one. Water. How do you calculate water intake in ICU? patient on ventilator, patient not on ventilator. How do you calculate? Huh? These things are very important. We are in GBS, first or second day you give your drugs. First all thing is ICU care. Water, we have to quantify what is output, urine output. Suppose the patient's urine output is 1 liter. He is not on ventilator. How much intake we have to give? If there is no other problem like renal failure is not there, like cardiac failure is there, not there. Normal person, 1 liter urine output is there, first day on admission. How do you calculate the fluid intake?
Normal requirement would be one for normal human being.
1 liter
it
you
would
are,
be 1.5
you
to
are
2 liters.
avoiding through the urine. So that much you don't require. Or excess water is there. Another 800 ml is there for the insensible loss from our breath, sweating, all these. They are also sensible, but some insensible loss will be there. through the
Respiration.
sweat. Respiration. So 1.8 liters you are removing from your body. That is a minimum requirement. Then you add to that. How much ever you can add, if suppose it is 500 ml you are adding to that, how much it will come? Around 2.4 liters minimum this patient require. His output is 1 through urine, 800 insensible loss. If it is a like a ICU room, it may be 500 ml. Non-ICU room, it will be 800 ml. So 1800 ml its body is excreting. If you give that, that is balanced. But that is not enough. You need to give more. Because you are giving another 500 ml, it will be 2400 ml. Then next day you have to see what is the output. If the output is coming down, then you have to increase the intake. And next you see his BP, his IVC, urine output. Everything is important on next days. Because only I am talking about a normal person. Normal person may take around 3 liters water in a day. That much you have to give.
Yeah.
How is the patient now?
Patient improved, sir. Even the power of the extremities improved to 4 plus. Physiotherapy was advised to the patient, and the patient got discharged.
No. Or anything else?
No, what are the contraindication for suctional cooling? What are the situation you will
Not
avoid?
give succinate
Absolute
cooling.
contraindication.
Hyperkalemia,
One is hyperkalemia.
Burns.
burns. Yeah.
Burns 72 hours. Okay, then
The patients with that genetic so that pseudo
But that
colon
malignant
anesthesia.
hyperkalemia.
he will not be able to pick up that.
We can't.
You can ask the family
Yes,
history
sir.
or anybody in that area has got, like the community, anybody is having that problem. Whereas it will be very difficult.
Malignant hypothermia.
History of malignant hyperthermia. Crush injuries.
Crush,
Then
rhabdomyolysis,
paralysis.
renal failure.
Muscle paralysis for more than 3 days. So what will happen? What do you want to avoid?
For crush injuries and all, potassium increase would be the renal failure, so that will further worsen the patient's condition.
Rhabdomyolysis and renal.
If the patient has that pseudocolon thing, genetically it will prolong apnea of the
One is prolonging apnea, but what? Potassium level will
potassium
be
level too high.
extrajunctional receptors.
Receptors.
So they will be upregulated. Usually the action of acetylcholine on the motor end plate. So apart from the motor end plate, a lot of receptors will be generated in other place other than the neuromuscular junction. So from all these areas, potassium will be reflection, so into the circulation. Sudden potassium hyperkalemia will be there. Okay.
Can you tell something about critical illness neuropathy? Something related to GBS, but it is not exactly GBS.
Critical illness, sir. I am
Critical
unaware
illness
of it.
neuropathy, critical illness myopathy, they are all similar to GBS, but they don't come to emergency room, they come to ICU, they come to a patient in ICU, not they directly come to ICU with that. In a patient, it can develop. What is that?
I'm not aware of
Critical illness neuropathy, myopathy means somebody is admitted in ICU for a prolonged period. They have developed weakness, especially in the lower limb. Neuropathy, they are present with foot drop. You can see the patients, normally their foot will be like this. So if the patient's foots are like this, then you have to suspect critical illness neuropathy. Then you have to examine and do nerve conduction study, all these things. Myopathy means especially in the proximal muscle, they will not be able to lift. So whenever the patient is in ICU for a long period, you have to always examine his foot for any dropping is occurring. Otherwise, ask the patient to lift the thigh muscles, so that you can rule out it very early. Now, once it occurs, it will be difficult. You can diagnose it early. They are similar to this disease. They don't present all of a sudden. They slowly develop in ICU.
The management you have to keep in mind about thermoregulation
thermoregulation.
because of the autonomic disruption.
Okay.
Okay, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Good.